Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Burn the Rule Book podcast. This is the podcast where we break down everything you were never taught about menopause, mental health, and relationships one truth at a time. I'm Rachel Boyle, a licensed couples therapist, sex therapist, and certified menopause specialist. This podcast helps you understand what is actually happening to your body, mind, and relationships, and gives you real tools to move through life with clarity, calm, and connection. Let's get started. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Burn the Rule Book podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about sleep and perimenopause and why that matters for you and your relationships. So if you've ever found yourself wide awake at 3 a.m., wondering what in the world happened to your sleep, you are not alone. Today, we're breaking down why sleep goes haywire, especially during perimenopause, how it affects your mental health and your relationships. And we're going to go into what the latest research shows on how to get the best night's sleep. By the end, you're going to understand the hormonal, psychological, and relational sides of sleep and what you can do to start tonight to finally get some better sleep. So first, let's start off with the hormonal piece. So when you're in perimenopause, remember this is the time where your estrogen and your progesterone are doing this wildly fluctuating roller coaster piece. It disrupts your sleep cycle. For those of you that are in perimenopause, you probably are already aware of this and are looking for some solutions. So the reason that it affects your sleep is because estrogen influences serotonin and body temperature regulation. So whenever that is wildly fluctuating, you can get hot flashes and night sweats. When you get hot flashes and night sweats, it can wake you up from a dead sleep. You can also get racing heart or heart palpitations in the middle of the night, and that can wake you up. That can also give you anxiety, which makes it really hard to go back to sleep. Also, progesterone is a kind of like a natural sedative. It promotes GABA, which is a calming neurotransmitter. And as it declines, women often experience more nighttime anxiety and insomnia. In addition to not getting great sleep, sleep also affects your mental health, like your mood, anxiety, depression, and brain fog. And those are also things that can increase during perimenopause. So when you're not getting enough sleep, your cortisol levels increase and become dysregulated. So you could have worsening or new onset of anxiety, depression, and mood swings. So things that would normally give you anxiety now give you anxiety. If you don't have enough sleep, then the things that might give you anxiety, now you have more anxiety, maybe panic attacks. If you're not getting enough sleep, you can also be prone to things like more irritability, depression, and brain fog. So brain fog is sometimes it feels like you're walking through sludge. It's hard for you to maybe remember words. You can be more forgetful of where you put things. And it can also feel like your brain is just moving more slowly and not making connections as fast. So research shows sleep and mental health have a bidirectional relationship, meaning that they affect each other. So the worse your sleep is, the worse your mental health will be. And the worse your mental health will be, then the worse your sleep will be. So it starts to create this vicious circle where bad sleep affects your mood and mental health. Your mood and mental health affect your sleep. So whenever you're not sleeping well and your mood becomes affected, that's going to have an impact on your relationship, right? Whether this relationship is with your partner, with a spouse, with your kids or friends. Sleep deprivation increases irritability, reactivity, and emotional misattunement in relationships. And studies show couples who get poor sleep experience more conflict and less empathy the next day. And with the hormonal changes that are happening, it's a perfect storm. So you're not getting as good of sleep. You have less patience, less libido, more friction, more irritability, more conflict arises. So repair in relationship requires emotional regulation. Emotional regulation means I'm aware of what I am thinking and feeling, and I'm able to regulate that in relationship to my partner or to this other person in front of me. In order to
recognize that you are dysregulated, you have to have a somewhat regulated nervous system, right? So what does that mean? Having a regulated nervous system means that you're aware when you're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawn is fix-it mode. Most of us are not aware of when we're in those modes, the fight, flight, freeze, or fix-it mode, because they just become like second habit. And when you haven't had enough sleep, you're going to get into those survival modes way more often with less regulation about it. So something you can do if you're finding that you're having more conflict with your partner is you can start wondering, hey, like, is my partner really doing something that's more annoying than usual? Or is it because, you know what, I really didn't get a good night's sleep? Owning that can make a huge difference in relationship, because whenever you own what's going on with you, then that is relational awareness. So that would sound something like, hey, I didn't get enough sleep last night. I'm sorry that I'm sounding irritated, right? Because in relationship, remember, all we can do is control ourselves. We can't control the other person. So next, what are some solutions? So the first solution is finding a properly trained hormone specialist, someone who's been trained by Ishwish, or you can go to menopause.org and find a list of providers, someone who's properly trained so that they can get your hormone replacement therapy stabilized, so that you're not having these wildly fluctuating estrogen and progesterone moments. It's also going to reduce the hot flashes. And when you reduce the hot flashes, then you can get a better night's sleep because you're not waking up hot and sweaty. It also can improve your sleep quality. It should improve the amount of deep sleep that you get. Research supports estrogen therapy for improving both sleep onset and quality in menopausal women. So if that doesn't work, that's where you want to start first. You can do something called CBTI. CBTI stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia. It is the first line evidence-based treatment for insomnia. So you find a therapist that specializes in CBTI, and they will start a treatment protocol. And CBTI has actually been shown to be better than pharmacological options for getting good sleep. And it's something easy that you can do and you can start implementing right away. Sleep health is really, really important. And there are some basic things that I'm going to get into later on in the podcast on what you need for good sleep health. Next, if you're having some anxiety, you want to integrate mindfulness and breath work. And that's because those are nervous system regulating tools. So whenever you regulate your breath, you can actually regulate the calmness inside of your body. Our lungs are the only organ that we can consciously control. And what's really cool is when you take a breath, you slow down your breathing rate, that will in turn slow down your heart rate. And when your heart rate calms down, it sends a signal to your brain that, you know what, you're safe, you're okay, and everything's going to be fine in this moment. So learning to do some breathing exercises can really, really help to regulate your nervous system, even if you're struggling because you haven't had much sleep the night before. So I always talk about box breathing. Box breathing is an easy breathing exercise where you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and hold for 4 seconds. And then you go around again, inhale for 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds. So just remember it's in the shape of a box. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Now, you want to do these breathing exercises for like 2 to 5 minutes if you have to, because you want to do the breathing exercises until you start to feel yourself calming down again. So what you want to do for good sleep habits is you want to have the same bedtime and wake time even on the weekends. You want to have a consistent schedule. You also want to turn off electronics an hour before bed to give your brain a chance to wind down. Because if you're watching something on TV that you get wound up about, like if it's the news or if it's kind of a scary show or if it's something really dramatic or emotional, you don't want to have that in your brain an hour before you go to sleep. So you don't want to have electronics an hour before sleep. You also want to have a nice, cool environment to sleep in. So really 65 to 67 degrees is a great temperature for you to get good sleep. And the reason it's important to have the room cold is because that signals to your body it's time to go to sleep. You also want to dim the lights inside of your house 1 to 2 hours before bed. So I'll have lamps on around the house, but I try not to turn on the really bright overhead lights 1 to 2 hours before bed. You also want to limit scrolling on your phone because scrolling on your phone releases endorphins, right? It's like, ooh, what's the next great story? What's the next funny thing that I'm going to watch? Or what's the next story that I'm going to read that's going to make me agitated? So you don't want to scroll 1 to 2 hours before bed. Now, as you get ready for sleep, you want to maybe do some relaxation exercises in the evening. So once again, you can do the box breathing before you go to sleep. You can also, if you've got thoughts inside of your head that just keep circling round and round, you can do some journaling, right? Get those thoughts out of your head before you go to sleep. If you have anything that is on a to-do list, like, hey, I have to remember to do this tomorrow, write it down, get it out of your head before you go to sleep. That's really going to help you. Now, another thing that you can do is to make sure that you get sunlight during the day. So, right, like I live up in the Pacific Northwest. So in the winter times, it's a little harder to get sunlight during the early morning and during the day. So do the best you can with getting 10 to 20 minutes of early morning sunlight. And if you can't do that, if you're in a place that's gray and rainy, you can get, it's like a sun lamp. They're lights and you can order them on Amazon, and it puts light onto your face. And that's important for your melatonin production so that your body knows whenever it's time to go to sleep. So we all have a circadian rhythm, and some of us have circadian rhythms at different times of the day. Some people are morning people, early morning people, some are mid-morning people, and then some people are night owls. So it's really important that you've got light to regulate your circadian rhythm. So remember, sleep is super, super important for your brain, for your body, for your health, for your mental health, for your relationship. And it's not just about getting rest. It's about when your brain repairs itself. So whenever you go to sleep and you get into REM sleep is, I don't know if you've seen like your dog sleep or your kid, your partner sleep, and you can see their eyes moving. That's REM sleep. REM sleep is when your brain clears itself out at night. It processes through the emotional events of the day and it takes those activities and it puts them away in the proper file drawer. That is happening in your subconscious while you're sleeping. And so that's why it's super important to get sleep for your mental health. Now, if you've been blaming yourself for being moody or disconnected, remember there's nothing wrong with you. You're just tired. And during perimenopause, it can be more challenging to get good sleep. So remember, prioritize good sleep, do the good sleep health, see a HRT provider that's well trained in the field, get your hormones looked at. That doesn't help, CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And also remember to do box breathing to help regulate your nervous system, because that is one thing that you can have control over to help calm your body. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for spending time with me today. I hope you found something helpful, validating, or just a little more human in our conversation. Remember, while I'm a licensed therapist, I'm not your therapist, and I'm not a medical doctor. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute medical or mental health advice. For personalized care, please consult with a licensed healthcare provider or mental health professional trained in the area you're seeking support. You deserve expert guidance that's tailored just for you.